Hello dear students, welcome back to series of videos presented by Maitri Educational Academy. I am Harikrishna. We'll have a discussion on the question number 78 which is given in TS ICET 2023 paper. If you observe the question here, if 2a is equal to 3b is equal to 4c, then what is b is to c is to a is the question. So to solve this question, first of all, you need to have a clear idea on the ratios questions. So I want to discuss a very simple trick to tackle this type of questions. Let's jump into the trick once. So the trick is related to converting the splitter ratio into unique ratio. What is the meaning of unique ratio and splitter ratio? You will understand here. Just let me take a simple example. For example, we have a question like this. A is to B is given as A is to B is equal to 3 is to 4 and B is to C is equal to 4 is to 5. Then what is the ratio of A is to B is to C? This is a question. This is what I am calling it as splitted ratio and this is what I am calling it as a unique ratio. So we have to know the trick of converting the splitted ratio into unique ratio. And here definitely it is not a challenging question. Everyone can comfortably say that A is to B is to C is going to be 3 is to 4 is to 5. So because the common term B is same here, so directly we can write 3 is to 4 is to 5 is the ratio of A is to B is to C. So now let's look at another question. A is to B is given as 3 is to 4 and B is to C is given as 5 is to 2. Then they are asking you to find out what is the ratio of A is to B is to C. And it is the similar question like previous, but only the change which you are able to see here is the common term is B, but the common term is different in these two. So to solve this question, what you need to do is same like previous, you have to make sure the common term is same. So how can we make the common term as same? You can just multiply this with 5 and you can just multiply this with 4 so that you will be able to get. So 5 into 3 is 15, 5 into 4 is 20, this is 15 is to 20 and B is to C, 5 is to 4 is 20, 4 into 2 is going to be 8. So this is a ratio of B is to C. To get A is to B is to C, not a challenging now because the common term is B. You can directly write A is going to be 15, B is going to be 20 and C is going to be 8. So the ratio is going to be 15 is to 20 is to 8. So this is a traditional approach of solving the question. But if you solve like this, it will consume a lot of time in the examination. That's why we are trying to discuss this with a simple trick. So what is the trick which you have to use is just use this trick when you are converting the splitter ratio into unique ratio. So we have A is to B which is given as 3 is to 4 and B is to C which is given as 5 is to 2. So to get the final result of A is to B is to C, simply follow the rule as to get A value, just multiply the first terms. 5 into 3 is 15. To get B value, just multiply the cross terms. 5 into 4 is 20. To get C value, multiply the last terms. 4 into 2 is 8. So you will get a final result as 15 is to 20 is to 8. Hope you are able to understand what I am trying to convey. Let's take one more example question to get a clear clarity on the trick. So let's assume that we have a question like this. A is to B is given as 2 is to 5 and B is to C is given as 3 is to 2. What is the ratio of A is to B is to C is the question. So not a challenging question, just use the pattern. To get the first term, just multiply the first terms. That means A value is going to be 3 into 2, 6. To get the second term, just multiply the cross terms, that is 15. To get the last term, just multiply the last terms, that is 10. So answer is going to be 6 is to 15 is to 10. If further simplification is there, you can do, otherwise you can keep it as it is. Let's take one more question. I hope you understand the trick to answer this question. Just look at this. A is to B is given as 5 is to 7. B is to C is given as 2 is to 3. What is the ratio of A is to B is to C is the question. Can you tell me what is A value now? A value, just multiply the first terms. That means 5 into 2 which is equal to 10. B value is going to be multiply the cross terms which is going to be 14 and C value is 21. That's how we can find out A is to B is to C here. I hope it is clear. It's a very simple trick and that is what I have mentioned here. To convert any splitter ratio to unique ratio, that means A is to B and B is to C is given. to get a unique ratio, you can just multiply the first terms, cross terms and last terms. So use this rule to find out the values. So let's look at the practice questions based on the same logic. Look at this question. A is to B is given, B is to C is given. They are asking A is to C. They are asking A is to C. So A is to B, which is equal to 2 is to 3, and B is to C is equal to 5 is to 4. Using this, they are asking you to find out what is A is to C. So first let me find out A is to B is to C here. To get A value, just multiply the first terms. 5 into 2, 10. To get B value, multiply the cross terms, which is 15. To get C value, multiply the last terms, which is 12. So they are asking A is to C, A value is 10, C value is 12. A is to C means 10 is to 12, or otherwise further simplification, we can write it as 5 is to 6. So mark the answer as option A. And here even finding B value is also not required. That's why if you want to find out directly A is to C, just multiply the first terms, that is 10, multiply the last terms, which is 12. 10 is to 12 is 5 is to 6. Directly also you can say. Let's take one more practice question. Can you please tell me what is the answer for this? So you are able to see that A is to B is equal to 1 is to 7. And B is to C is equal to 2 is to 5. They are asking you to find out A is to C. Not a challenging question again. To get A value, just multiply the first terms, that is going to be 2. To get B value, multiply the cross terms, which is 14. To get C value, multiply the last terms, which is 35. They are asking A is to C, which is 2 is to 35, available as A, mark it as the answer choice. Let's look at one more question on the screen. So they given A is to B value as 2 is to 3, B is to C value as going to be 7 is to 1. Using this, they are asking you to find out what is A plus B plus C divided by A plus C. So to get this value, first of all, we have to know what is A is to B is to C value. To get A value, multiply the first terms, which is going to be 14, B value is 21, and C value is going to be 3. So you have to find out A plus B plus C. That means 14 plus 21 plus 3. 14 plus 21 is 35, 35 plus 3 is 38, and denominator is A plus C, which is 14 plus 3, 17. So mark the answer as 38 by 17. Hope you are able to understand what I am trying to convey. And let's look at the question which is given in the previous paper. If you observe this question, sum of the three numbers is 105. If the ratio of first and second number, I don't know what are those three numbers. I am assuming those numbers as n1 and n2 and n3. The first and second number ratio they given as 2 is to 3, and second and third numbers ratio they given it as 4 is to 5. n2 is to n3 is equal to 4 is to 5. Find the second number. So to get the second number, what I am doing is, first of all, I am trying to find out the unique ratio of n1 and n2 and n3. To get a unique ratio, we know the trick. First term is 8, second term is 12, third term is 15. We got a unique ratio and they are asking you to find out the second number. So only with ratio we cannot find out the value, right? So that's why they given one more information for us. They given that sum of the three numbers is 105. That means n1 plus n2 plus n3. Sum of the three numbers they given 105. And what is the ratio of this? 8 is to 12 is to 15. That means what is the sum of the parts? 8 is to 12 is to 15. 8 parts, 12 parts, 15 parts. Sum of the parts is 35 parts. So if 35 parts is equal to 105, then what is one part value? One part value is 3. But they are asking you to find out the second number. Second number is 12 parts. 12 into 3, 36. Mark the answer option C. Hope you are able to understand what I am trying to convey. Very, very important repeating model question from ratios and proportions for all the competitive exams and placement exams. And ICET is repeatedly giving this type of model. Let's observe another type question which belongs to the same logic which we have discussed. X is equal to 3y is equal to 5z. Using this, they are asking you to find out the ratio of x by z. How to get the ratio of x by z? So what I am doing is, by using this, I am writing x is equal to 3y. From this data, I can write x by y is equal to 3 by 1. That means x is to y is equal to 3 is to 1 from this data. And you are able to see that 3y is equal to 5z. From this, we can comfortably write y by z is equal to 5 by 3. Y by z is equal to 5 by 3. That means y is to z is going to be 5 is to 3. So using this, getting a unique ratio is not a difficult task. To get x value, just multiply the first terms. That means 15. To get y value, multiply the cross terms, which is 5. To get z value, multiply the last terms, which is 3. So x is to y is to z is a question. So we can say answer is 15 is to 5 is to 3. So but doing like this is taking a lot of time. So that's why we are trying to use another simple trick to make the answer choice. Just follow me for the trick. So what is the trick is, just simply as soon as you see any value like x is to y is to z, they are asking, and we have the equation like this: x is equal to 3y is equal to 5z. So from this, to get x is to y is to z, instead of using the logic which I have told you now, just use this logic to make the answer little faster than the previous. To get x value, what you need to do is just close this and observe the coefficients of other two and multiply. That means 3 into 5 is going to be 15. To get y value, just close this, multiply the coefficients of other two terms. That means 1 into 5 is 5. To get z value, just close this and multiply the other two terms coefficients, which is equal to 3. That means answer is 15 is to 5 is to 3. Answer is 15 is to 5 is to 3. So we arrive at this answer. So hope you understand what I am trying to convey. Let's look at one more question. If they have given as 2x is equal to 3y is equal to 5z, using this, what is x is to y is to z is a question. To get x value, as I told you, just close this, multiply other two, which is 15. To get y value, multiply the other two, which is 10. To get z value, multiply the first two, which is 6. So ratio of x is to y is to z is going to be 15 is to 10 is to 6. Like this, you can make the answer choice faster using this trick. So let's look at the question which is given in the TS ICET. Now, I am sure you will be definitely able to solve this question comfortably by taking less than 30 seconds of time. And that was my agenda. So pause the video and try to solve the question. Anyway, if you are not able to solve, just follow me now. So how to get a value? As I told you in the previous, to get a value, multiply other two terms, which is going to be 12. How to get b value? Just close this, multiply other two terms, which is 8. To get c value, just close this, multiply other two terms, which is 6. So a is to b is to c, we got it as 12 is to 8 is to 6, and further simplification we can write it as 6 is to 4 is to 3. So we know that a is to b is to c, we got it as 6 is to 4 is to 3, but they are asking b is to, that means 4 is to, c is to, that means 3 is to 6. 4 is to 3 is to 6 is going to be the ratio of b is to c is to a. Mark your answer choice as option 3. Mark your answer choice as option 3. Hope you understand the logic or trick which I have discussed. So please solve some practice questions based on the same trick so that you will understand how the questions are given in the examination and how can you solve those questions by taking less than 30 seconds of time. Let's look at the question number 1. Just pause the video, take a screenshot, solve the question, comment your answer in the chat box. Question number 2. Very important model question. While you are solving, still you have any doubts, you can ask me in the chat box so that I can make a separate video on the doubts. Question number 3. Try this. Hope you are able to understand. Thank you so much. See you in the next session.